And he then goes into all the biases from the companies that were paid and the people who were running the research to try and prove that smoking had lung cancer. They're the times that I like to smoke my pipe, because you sit there and ponder on things.
Absolutely, yeah.
And at the same time, you've got that sense that, I'm protecting myself from these potential airborne spreading or viruses, or even the heavy metals and things. And I've tried to keep a straight face. Hello, this is Graham. I'm an Anunnaki from the planet whatever.
Welcome, Richard, to my home. This is the first one we've done at home, actually. So thanks for coming all the way up, because I know it's the other side of town as well.
It's actually nicer, I think, to come here than go to Brighton for me, because I'd probably go on the train.
Right.
Which is a bit of hustle and bustle. And I can sit in my van and just cruise over the downs, even though the traffic is always a problem everywhere you go. Yeah. But you're in your own little space, so...
Yeah.
And I don't know which part of Brighton you were in.
Right by the train station, actually, where the studio is.
Oh, it's a shame we didn't do it there then.
Now you say.
Now you say.
Stop it.
But it's a nice day and it's warm.
It is beautiful.
And I've got to sit here for 10 minutes, I think you said.
That's it, yeah. So, enjoy just doing nothing for 4 hours, because it sounds like... When was the last time you just did...
Never for 4 hours, other than asleep. Sitting still for 4 hours. I think people would have thought I've died.
Yeah.
Comatose. But no, I mean, it would be interesting to, engage with you, obviously.
Yeah.
And try not to fidget too much.
That's all right. No, you're doing ever so well. I mean, to be honest, it did get to the point with the other sitters where I sort of gave up, and Mick particularly was so animated. Have you seen him speak? Have you seen
Not seen him actually do it. I was on a, what would they call it? A prevention of a 5G tower going up.
Oh, in Worthing.
In Worthing,
he was kind of getting people for that, wasn't he?
And they haven't managed to get it in there since. But there's always a worry they'll do a sneaky. And clearly somebody snitched.
Yeah.
Or they had a timetable or something like that. I can't really remember. I just turned up and did a bit of filming.
Oh, you were filming there, were you?
Yes. I was thinking it was all going to kick off and we'd see in Worthing, the riot police come out and tear gas and whatever.
It's a shame.
And no drama at all. It was just ever so peaceful, which is really what you want, of course.
It is,
you don't want any of that drama, but there's at the back of your head, you're thinking, get more views. You'll get views, which it's not really the thing you want. You just want a peaceful bunch.
Yeah.
And the opposition going, okay, we'll leave you to it.
Yeah, of course.
And that is effectively what happened. So, but one wonders how long that peaceful process would go when the corporation that wants all of this in is breathing down the necks of the contractors.
Yeah.
And then how much the police will stay on the ring side.
Yeah.
Doing what they're supposed to do, and that is just keeping the peace and not actively taking sides, which is what they're very well known for these days.
Yeah, of course.
But yes, that's my only real encounter with Mad Mick.
Right. So you mentioned views.
Yes.
So obviously I know you've been sort of facetious.
Yes.
To some extent, at least. But,
it is true that if once you've got a YouTube channel, of course, you are wanting people to see it. And so on the one hand, you could say, well, that's just you wanting to get, gratuitous views, bums on seats, etc. But also, the more views you've got, the more people are seeing the argument that you don't want the 5G tower in your town, especially that one next to a school.
Yeah.
So, although the activity of the police dragging people away would be pretty nasty, and you wouldn't want that to really happen in real life, it would garner views, and the views would hopefully then show what was going on in the light it was. Whereas when things are very peaceful, nobody gives a monkeys. It's like, oh, well, nothing happened.
Exactly, yeah.
So, that is the problem. The other thing is, of course, that people are watching things like these eviction videos or bailiff banging on people's doors, and they're watching those in great numbers. And often a lot of them sort of fail to get rid of the bailiffs. And so the overall impression is a negative one, that if you tackle your council tax or you don't pay utilities and the bailiffs come knocking, there's no remedy. It's all, it's all fake. And so you get that impression because people are watching the ones in which more, not necessarily violence, but more aggravation is there.
Sure.
And so you get a skewed view of what's really going on. And it's difficult in these lawful remedy things because you don't really get somebody going, oh, okay, you win, and they walk away in a way that makes you go, oh, right, okay, brilliant, that's over, that's a ka-ting for us.
That's it, I've done it, and I can replicate that, and we're done, we've won, kind of thing. It
all just so slowly fades away, and you're still left going, well, will they turn up tomorrow? Will they come back in a year's time? Are they putting a lien on my house? Are they, so there's no conclusive. And again, so that skews the overall position, and a lot of people get frightened and don't want to try these things. Even though they don't want to pay, or they feel victimised or unfair, or that the government is screwing them down, whatever it is.
What's the solution to that? It's tricky, isn't it? Because we've sort of followed the Freeman on the land stuff probably like for 20 odd years, and there was a point before COVID where I sort of came to the conclusion that really it was more of a philosophical adventure more than a practical one, because people were getting put in prison in Canada, and and you'd hear these rumours and nothing would ever be concrete, like you say.
I mean, 20 years ago you didn't have the internet in the way that we do now.
Yeah, that's true.
And I think even though the end point isn't obvious, I think the pressure that the councils are having, I think the bailiff companies probably never before have had so much resistance. There's loads of people talking about it. And the government aren't helping by continually squeezing people and acting in a way that they really don't give a monkeys, which clearly they never have. But now they're not frightened to show it. And more people who ordinarily perhaps wouldn't have been that aware of the shenanigans of government, and would just said, well, they're MPs, they lie anyway, don't they? That's the default position. Are beginning to realise, hang on a minute, they are really overstretching, and people are finding these videos online and going, and of course the people in the videos, like myself and others, are saying it's a numbers game, which is encouraging, I hope, more people to give it a whirl, to at least try and push back, even if it's just a simple letter of conditional acceptance and saying, well, I am happy to pay, but can you please assure me the money's not going to pay for victims to be killed in war zones and things like that. So I imagine that the genie is very much out of the bottle now, and it's not going to go back. Too many people can see what's going on.
It does feel like that,
And so I think the government and the councils and all these corporations are on a one-way journey, which is downwards. But I think they're going to scream and shout in the interim and make life a bit of a mess for people. But I don't think people are going to go back to how they were before.
What do you think? Where are we heading then? Because that's a huge question, isn't it? If not this, then what?
Well, that is the big question. I am actually very positive about human nature. I interviewed a chap who was in Poland, I think, when the Berlin Wall came down, and the government collapsed, and he said it was the best couple of years of his life, because at first there was confusion, but people just helped each other.
Right.
Because they still needed each other. They suddenly realised, well, we still need each other's services because we're not able to be self-sufficient all on our own.
Yeah.
And as a consequence, businesses began to thrive again, family-run businesses and what have you. Corporations probably suffered a bit. Because if somebody wanted to fix their roof, somebody across the road would lend them a ladder.
Yeah.
And favours were cashed in and friendships made. He said the trouble was the government, because it had collapsed and it was re-establishing itself, realised there's no tax coming in because nobody was paying any tax.
Right.
And you suddenly discover, actually, everyone's getting on, we're not paying any taxes, everything seems fine. And the government thought, well, that
doesn't work.
That can't last, can it? Because then they'll see how irrelevant we are.
Yeah.
So they then put in martial law, which changed everything, reaffirmed the government, and as he said, it was time to leave because it was awful.
Right.
Once you had the government back in with its whip and its rules and everything, instead of people just getting on and sorting out the issues between themselves.
Yeah.
So I think we're likely to see the collapse of the government. As much as the globalists and everybody want this one world government, I just can't see that really working. I mean, we're not China. We haven't had centuries of obedience. And I think that's what you need. And although you could argue that they've been infiltrating universities, infiltrating schools and corporations, and almost every other person works at a corporation, and some of these large corporations are almost counties in their own way, or countries with their own rules and regulations and all of that. I still think that we as a nation over here anyway, we're happy to be pushed to a point. We haven't reached that point yet, but when that point happens, if it can happen in a more orderly fashion than just down and out chaos, then I think people will get on board. And I think there is enough people now who have been thinking what we ought to be doing, how we would restructure communities, societies, groups, how we would provide food and all these sort of basics, even though they're in no position to do it. I think that if the balloon goes up, I think that's where these people would suddenly come forward.
Yeah.
And I think, and I've said this so many times now, but I think people, certainly in the West, the majority of people are like water, in as much as they'll take the line of least resistance. And so if you show them something good and it's beneficial and is useful and helpful and protective for their families and all of those things, I think they'll just come on board.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think you're right.
And so we need it really to get pretty bad. And I think the government know that. And so they want to have it bad, but not extremely bad, that we rise up.
Yeah. Yeah. Similar way that the pharmaceutical companies keep you ill, but not so
exactly.
ill.
Yeah. And so they want us dampened down, which is why they had sort of the crab-like steps to get 5G in and the 15-minute cities, so they can really control us in a much harsher way through penalties and health.
Yeah.
They have in their back pocket, or their little joker up the sleeve, is the vaccine. But I'm not convinced as many people as they hoped had taken it. Although I do think that...
When you say the vaccine, in that respect, are you talking about the possible control aspect of
I think
what the vaccine might be doing?
Yes, I think the way that the vaccine was developed... difficult to say because you're going to put this on YouTube, of course.
Well, I can always take, I don't have to put stuff in. I mean, like I say, it's going to be edited, so... No, but you don't have to be too careful about what you say.
No, I know, but it's also nice not to be too careful, but to put it in a way that the audience know what one's talking about.
Yeah.
So in other words, if you had a substance that you you offered as an answer to a problem, but it turns out that substance isn't the answer to a problem, but actually was manipulated beforehand knowingly that it was actually going to cause problems.
Yeah.
And so I think that is what has been done. I think there's clear evidence that that's been done. It's not just a conspiracy anymore. And we've seen, I mean, there's so many bloody ambulances on the roads. And I live within 5 minutes of a hospital, and I see these ambulances belting down my road all the time.
Yeah.
And my son works at the hospital, so he knows.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's, they're down the corridors and they're all over, people coming in, not enough room, not enough. Anyway, so I think that that particular operation has been successful. I think that is a joker in their pack against we the people, as it were.
Yeah.
But there are plenty of protocols and health remedies to knock that down. And I think more and more people are discovering that, nicotine being one of them.
Oh, that's funny you mentioned that. Yeah. That came up with Kate Shimarani.
Oh, did it?
Yeah. Yeah, the nicotine. I was thinking of getting some nicotine. I've never smoked in my life.
Have you not?
Never had a cigarette in my life.
No.
Oh, I'm missing out.
You are. Well, I was, I readily confess that I used to be absolutely anti-smoking.
Right, yeah.
Anti-smoking. And my girlfriend Julia smoked, and I was so, until about a year ago, I was saying to her, you really got to give up because I don't want to lose you. And,
Yeah, okay.
And then I was reading a book that somebody sent me called Smoke Screens by Richard White, which was produced in the 90s, I think it was, late 90s. So well before any of this nonsense, the virus thing. And what it was saying in there was, he said, I'm not trying to advocate for smoking at all. I'm looking at the research and the bias that has been put in the last 20 to 30 years, in which the advice has been to give up smoking because it causes lung cancer.
Yeah.
And he went through, and a lot of the book is down to a lot of the research papers, and he then goes into all the biases from the companies that were paid and the people who were running the research to try and prove that smoking had lung cancer. And it's a fascinating book because it does seem as if there was an agenda to push people from smoking, which seemed a very odd thing for a government to want to do when the tax revenue they were making on the back of cigarette packets in particular was hugely high.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden we have this, it's giving you lung cancer, blah, 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 blah. And he gives reasons why all of this data is not as accurate as it could be. And he gives a lot.
I'm guessing most of those are, those studies are, what's the word when it's just lifestyle studies? I would have thought. Are they?
They are scientific studies. It's just that people were paid, as in all of these things in the industry, to slur them in one direction.
Okay.
And he cites, we used to see on the television all these documentaries about how dogs, I don't know if you remember that, dogs were forced to smoke cigarettes. Beagles, I think they were. And I remember it in the 70s. Okay. And these programs exposing how these beagles were trying to work out would they get lung cancer and all of this.
Right.
And so dogs were forced to, I was going to demonstrate them, but I can't.
No.
Were forced to be in these held cages, clamped in with cigarettes stuck in their mouths.
Yeah.
Anyway, not one dog died of lung cancer.
Okay.
They died of other things, probably being boredom, stuck clamped into these positions.
Of course, yeah.
But they could not prove that one dog, and they did hundreds of these things, not one dog died of lung cancer.
Right. Again, similar to the, not that I'm virus or no virus, I'm slightly agnostic, but there were tests done, weren't they, in the,
yes.
with the the Spanish flu.
Right, absolutely.
And they dropped sputum and spit and
Oh, they were horrible,
into
weren't
the
they? Yeah.
prisoners, and none of them,
None of them got it.
from infected, so-called infected
Yes.
individuals, and none of them.
They could not get
No,
the
no,
the Spanish flu to cross over.
no. Apparently.
Apparently.
So this is,
Well,
I've learned to take pretty much everything with
pinch off. Yeah.
certain caution. But yeah. Well, that's really interesting about the nicotine. Yeah. Someone mentioned it about 10 years ago to me, and obviously because I don't smoke, it didn't really mean much to me. Yeah. But it's funny that it's come up, the word people claiming that statistically it did, even mainstream, prevent COVID. That was a kind of mainstream line, wasn't
Yes.
it? Somehow that smoking.
During that whole COVID thing, fewer people who smoked were in hospital with any sort of lung problems.
Yeah.
Which
It's bizarre, isn't it?
which was very bizarre because we were always told there that, anything that's supposedly respiratory, airborne and all of this, you'd think, hang on a minute. And then you've got people like Dr. Brian Ardis saying that actually the nicotine in tobacco or in any of the deadly nightshade plants, such as bell peppers, celery, aubergine, tomatoes, are extremely beneficial. Yet you can have an operation at the hospital and you're advised not to have any of those things. And it turns out, allegedly, that if you did have tomatoes or bell peppers or any of these things, actually that would help your recovery because the nicotine in them is, and we've got nicotine receptors in our body.
Yeah.
So I understand. But it's interesting that we now have, or the previous Prime Minister wanted, I don't know whether it was actually passed now, but
just go on.
The tobacco thing, that if you're 14 now, you'll never be able to buy any tobacco. And as you get older, the law goes with you, as it were.
Yeah.
So that in X many years, that nobody will smoke.
Yeah.
And now we've also seen Keir Starmer, whatever you want to call him, saying that, we want to pass a thing in which you can't smoke outdoors anymore.
Yeah.
Or in public places or anywhere. And it won't be long before you won't be able to smoke in your own house, according to their legislation and jurisdiction, which some of us are not really worried about. And you think, why? Why is that then?
Yeah.
Why that one thing?
Why that one thing when surely there's so many...
There's so many other things that... Exactly.
The issues that they just ignore or don't seem to care about.
And it's interesting at the beginning of the whole COVID business that Dr. Fauci said now's a good time to give up smoking.
Okay.
And you thought, well, for whose benefit is that then?
Okay. Yeah.
So there's all those. So a year ago, I started to smoke a pipe.
Ah, okay.
And
you've just been waiting for an excuse to
I
smoke
have
a
actually,
pipe, haven't you?
Yeah, because 30
all
years,
your life.
Yeah, 30 years ago, I did dabble with a pipe, and then I thought, do you know, am I risking my health, and do I look too stupid as a 30-year-old then smoking a pipe? I need to be a bit older. This looks silly. Now I'm proud to smoke. Yeah, bingo. I thought, well, it doesn't matter. I've got 60 years of clean lungs. If I get another 20, 30 years and it proves that it is difficult, well, it's not my whole life.
Exactly. Yeah.
So and it's a very enjoyable pastime. It does slow you down and it does make you think, and it does, as you said at the beginning of this, how often do you do nothing?
Yeah.
Well, they're the times that I like to smoke my pipe because you sit there and ponder on things.
Absolutely, yeah.
And at the same time, you've got that sense that, I'm protecting myself from these potential airborne spreading or viruses or even the heavy metals and things.
Oh, really?
That nicotine's supposed to work wonders with. So it's a bit of a interesting thing. The thing that I find that I realised was with smoking, it's about the only product that has all over it, 50% is a warning message.
Yeah.
Telling you not to do it and you'll die if you do, or you'll get lung cancer, or
Yeah.
pictures of diseased organs. And I can't think of any other everyday product that has that. Alcohol, which you can abuse very easily,
Yeah.
doesn't have huge warning things on it. And I think, and this is my pet theory, that this is a subliminal message to the subconscious mind that actually is directing your body to follow what these instructions say. So if it says smoking kills and you smoke and you constantly see those warning messages, I think that's an instruction to you. And so all the tobacco tins that I buy, I cover that up.
Oh, yeah.
I cover that up so I don't see it.
Yeah.
And I put jolly pictures on. Or take it out of those packets immediately and shove them in your own pouch.
Yeah, that's the way to do it.
That's the way to do it. And ignore the bastards.
Yeah.
And I think that pipe tobacco, I mean, this is fast becoming my favourite subject.
I can tell.
Yes.
Yeah.
Pipe tobacco is very much less not indoctrinated. What's the word I'm looking for?
Culturally?
It's less filled with nasties.
Oh, I see. Sorry. Yeah. Okay.
Can't think what the word is, but whereas cigarette tobacco is full of all sorts of rubbish.
Yeah, I think that's
because they needed something to make it addictive, because nicotine's not addictive.
Is it not?
No. And I know that because I've been smoking my pipe now for about nearly a year, and I'll sit here for 4 hours, or I'll go a day and not even think about, I need to have a fix. Okay. So I know it's not addictive. But cigarettes, on the other hand, they've got something in them.
Yeah.
To make them addictive, so they could sell loads of them.
Yeah.
Anyway, so there's that subject done and dusted to the nth degree.
By the way, that'll make a nice little short.
Yes, there you go.
The benefits of nicotine.
Now, and the thing is, what makes this really interesting for me is I started to talk about this on the channel, and most of the viewers who watch my stuff are pretty awake and au fait with things and open-minded, and yet this was one barrier that many of them could not get over, because they've been so indoctrinated that smoking is bad for you. It's so ingrained that when I started to say, well, I'm not sure it is as bad as you make. I'm not saying it's good for you, but I don't think it's going to send you straight through. If you smoke 80 a day, you're probably poisoning yourself, sure. But if you're smoking, I don't know, 10, 20 even, there's too many people who it hasn't overly affected. And maybe if they've got other problems, it's exacerbated it, yes. But the amount of vitriol from people going, but smoking is so bad. It's like, yes, and I used to think that too, but the whole journey has made me open-minded to everything. And anything the government tells you, I just think, well, what's the reverse then? And the fact that they've got 50% of the space on all their products is huge warnings. You just think, what is it about this product?
They're not on mobile phones, they're not on...
no, and mobile phones are killers.
Yeah.
And apparently it says, I haven't looked at the instructions on my mobile phone, because who does? But apparently it says, do not hold it up to your head.
They do, yeah.
So, and as I say, kids don't read that, and yet the kids are on it all day long.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Radiating their brain. So the things the government want you to have and permit and are encouraging, such as everything going digital, is something to avoid.
Yeah, interesting. You're not, so there'll be accusations that you're being paid by the tobacco lobby.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And I wish I was. I wish I had not so much shares, but I wish I had somebody on the tobacco industry who could ship me some tobacco tax-free.
Yeah. That
would be very nice, thanks very much. But I'm thinking of growing mine, because it's legally okay to grow it.
Yeah? Yeah, that'd be difficult to criminalise that, wouldn't it? Really.
Well, I don't know. They can criminalise anything these days. But yeah, I can't see a problem. But yes, you're right. People will make these comments.
Do you struggle with that? Do you get that often? Do you get? I mean, even in the circles there's always someone saying, "Oh, so and so's a shill," or "So and so's controlled up," or do you know Miri? What's her name? Miriam Finch. If you know the name, they're in the game. So, which seems...
If you know the name, they're in the game.
Yeah, basically saying that if they've got any kind of following.
Right.
Yeah,
I suppose that does make some sense in that if they, how is it they've got hundreds of thousands of followers and somebody else hasn't? Is it that they are then allowed to get away with it?
Yeah.
And yeah, I guess that's true. And there are plenty who've got vastly more followers than I have. I mean, mine escalated in the first year very quickly. The second year took slower to build up. And it's very nice to have that audience. The only downside is you don't get the big paycheck, apparently, that these people are supposed to get.
Yeah.
Or instructions. I haven't had any instructions from anyone of how to give misinformation as yet. And that,
Yeah.
So I don't think there is much as it is going on. I think the misinformation is all the name calling.
Yes.
Rather than actually it going on. I mean, there's probably a few players, but if they're waking up more people or making people question what's going on, then I think that's a good thing.
Yeah.
And even if they are paid to do that, they don't just watch one one YouTuber or one influencer. So you could have Mr. Paid Controlled Opposition sitting there saying one thing, oh yes, you must get everyone to try and smoke because actually, pretend that it's really good.
Yeah.
So you could do that. And then you'll have plenty of others who will be saying, no, that's rubbish. You don't want to do that. And so as somebody watching, hopefully you're taking a balanced view. Not all of them are just following that Mr. Paid Control.
Exactly.
So,
well, that's always been my take on it. Is ultimately it doesn't matter really, because I mean I used to listen to Alex Jones 3 hours a day for 3 or 4 years. Yeah, and it didn't do me any harm.
No.
Yeah.
Says you can't look out the window thinking there's a van spying on you.
Exactly. Yeah, but the point being, and I say Alex Jones because a lot of people would
resonate with that.
Would say he's a classic example of a sort of controlled up kind of character. I don't even know with someone like him I wouldn't even come to that conclusion. I don't know, but I do think ultimately it doesn't matter, because the real journey is a sovereign journey, isn't it? And if we're still looking for heroes and for people to tell us what to do, we're kind of missing the point of the whole thing.
Absolutely, yeah. No, I totally agree. I mean, I think the biggest problem that there is as you gain followers is it's very easy to get lost in it and be on a bandwagon.
Yes.
Because one thing that you learn very quickly is if you put negative content out that says, oh my God, look at this, people will watch.
Yeah. And
if you're taking the YouTube pound or dollar, you'll make more money by putting fear into people than you will if you give solutions.
Yes.
And so for the first 8 months or so, as I was going down the rabbit hole, I was sharing what I was learning, going, my God, look at this. Oh, Struth, this is awful.
Uh-huh.
And,
I remember,
yeah. And of course, the money was coming in because the views were coming in.
Yeah.
Then as I thought, well, what are we doing? We're living in fear. We mustn't live in fear. We've got to try and save people. And so you then offer solutions. And if I make a video about farming or food or, something sensible that would actually help people, the views are minuscule.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to know. And so I can absolutely see how people say like Russell Brand
Mm-hmm.
Needs to put a "oh shit, look what just happened" type video out
Yeah.
frequently, because he's got staff. He's obviously got an expensive lifestyle.
Yeah.
He's probably got a big mansion.
Yeah.
He's an ex-Hollywood player, as it were.
Yeah.
That's
a good point. He's got staff. It's a
yeah.
business that needs to run, otherwise you're in trouble. It needs to.
Yeah. And he's probably unemployable elsewhere now, and
Mm-hmm.
probably doesn't want to work for anybody else, because he can work for himself and make a mint.
Yeah.
But along with that comes, I've got to frighten the bejesus out of everybody, so they watch.
Maybe not even consciously.
But yes, exactly. And he's probably got advisors and people doing the thumbnails and all these things for him.
Yeah.
I can't see him acting like I do, do everything myself.
Yeah.
And rushing up to the upstairs room where my computer is and going, I'm just going to do the thumbnail now, and trying to find a picture, and what the hell can I call it? And
oh God,
all of this.
I feel for you. Just doing these few videos that I've done. Wow, it's a lot of work. I mean, I suppose these are very long to edit, but it is a lot of work, isn't it?
Well, having worked in the corporate field in the old days as a freelance videographer, I suppose, I realised that with these opinion pieces and interviews, I didn't want to edit them.
Right.
Because it's just too time consuming.
Yeah.
So I deliberately make my monologues roughly 10 minutes, 12 minutes.
Yeah.
And at first they were tricky to sort of get to do in one go. I'm a lot more relaxed with them, and I'm less fussy with them now. It's the drip feed, really, of the message, rather than having it absolutely brilliantly conceived.
Sure. Yeah.
And so they're just one-take wonders, and the interviews are one-take wonders, really.
Yeah.
With
I suppose so. You don't do a lot of... No, they look fairly unedited.
Yeah. And the other thing, I mean, particularly with the interviews, I didn't want to edit the interviews because I didn't want anyone to be able to say I was manipulating the conversation. Okay. I wanted people to... I think in the truth and freedom space, you want to try and eliminate, I mean, this is just my own view, you want to try and eliminate any sense of manipulation or whatever. So I've worked with other videographers who've also worked in the corporate business or television, where you're trying to make it slick, and you're taking out the ums and ahs and all that.
Yeah.
And I think, though, in this space, you want to hear people thinking.
Yeah.
You want that thinking space, and you want people where they trail off as they try to bring their thoughts to the fore, because that shows they're genuine.
Yeah.
It doesn't show that it's not reflecting a polished side. And let's face it, our politicians use word salad. They're so slick, and everything's very glossy and untrustworthy.
Yeah.
So I think that we need to see people who are as in their skin.
Yeah.
Obviously, for something like this, where you're doing 4 hours, people may not want to spend 4 hours trying to wait for that Vobes to actually manage to sort of conceive a sentence.
Say something.
Say something useful. But so in those sort of things, I get it. I actually get it. But when you're interviewing somebody about a specific, their speciality, you know, especially if they're selling a book or a service, I want the audience to be able to watch them and go, well, do they really know what they're talking about? I haven't sexed it up to make it look really good.
Yeah.
I think the audience can go, yeah, okay, I might give that one a miss.
Yeah. No, that's right. Yeah. So who are some of your sort of favourite interviews, and some that you'd rather sort of forget?
I had a guy...
You obviously don't have to mention names with the latter. But.
Well, I was going to start with the latter, because I had a guy who came to me and said, I've got a really good story. It's going to be really great on your channel.
Okay.
And I want to talk about money. And at the time, I was just beginning the sort of a bit of the money, wealth creation, what money is, and all of this. Yeah. And it was all quite new to me. And I'd had a couple of people, and I thought, oh, okay. And he sounded really positive about it. So I said, oh, great. And he said, also, I want to tell you about when I was arrested during a COVID protest.
Yeah.
And I said, oh, great, okay, that sounds like a good show.
Yeah.
So we booked the date, and he turns up on Zoom, and we're having a general conversation, getting into the main crux of it. And I said, it's interesting that people are now, they really want to hang on to cash. They see that as a private transaction. It gives them a certain freedom. Why do you think, I said to him, why do you think so many people are seeing cash as a way forward? And he said, oh, I just think it's a fad. I just think it's a fad. And I'm sitting there going...
Where to go with this? Where am I going?
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, did he misunderstand the question?
Yeah.
I said, so, are they seeing it as some form of sovereign money? And he said, no, not really. I just think, people are a bit nervous about progressing onto modern things.
Yeah.
And it's probably the old people who are holding onto money and all of this. And there was no sense at all that he grasped what money creation was and what fiat currency was.
Did this one go out?
No. It's difficult because what do you say? So I immediately changed. I immediately changed.
Run out of battery.
Yeah. I changed tact quickly and I said, tell me about when you were arrested. That sounded really grim, Tell me about the protest and everything leading up to it. So he's like, oh, okay, yeah, no. Well, I went on this protest. There was about 4 or 5 of us in a park. Okay, all right. And he said, it was right at the end, really. I said, oh, okay. He said, the police turn up. And I said, right. And he said, I was walking back to my bike, and this was during the lockdown, and the police said, you better get home. And he said, well, yeah, I'm just getting onto my bike now. And they were questioning me, and I said, yeah. And I rode home. And I said, I thought you said you got arrested. Well, it was the way they spoke to me. It felt like I was arrested.
Oh,
and I just said, so you weren't slammed in the back of a Black Maria then taken and shoved in a cell overnight? He said, no. I said, oh, that's a shame.
Yeah, it's a shame.
Because where's the story? So that was very memorable. And it didn't go out, obviously.
Right.
And the following day I emailed him. I just had to say, I'm really sorry. It just wasn't a strong enough.
Yeah.
I wanted to be honest with him.
Yeah.
Because he had
emailed. Said the batteries had run out.
He'd emailed. Well, the thing is, he'd emailed and he says, I really enjoyed that. I don't know with I've got more. I thought there's no
more
way.
Of that.
Yeah. More of nothing.
Yeah.
So I just had to be honest. And then I met him at an event somewhere, and I forgot it was him. And he said, "Oh, it's really sorry that episode because it was, it was very threatening, powerful. And it's a shame." So that was very memorable. I can't think who the other one was, but some of them I do struggle with.
Yeah.
And you think, just give me something a bit meaty.
Something, yeah.
But in terms of favourite ones, that is a difficult one because, I mean, there was a woman. I wouldn't say it was my favourite one, but it was an unusual one. She was a channeler, and she was channeling live in front of me on Zoom, Anunnaki or some such alien race. Mm-hmm. And she said, and this is what I do. And I said, oh, okay. And we were talking about it, and she said, yeah, I get into this deep trance and all of this. Now, this was all quite new to me at the time.
Yeah.
I mean, I've heard of people who are channeling dead people and things
like
that.
Yeah.
But aliens was quite a step. Now, when I started doing the channel, somebody said to me, Richard, you need to have an open mind on whatever people tell you because the rabbit holes you'll go down are quite challenging.
Yeah.
And if you shut people down, you're shutting yourself down and just leave everything open. So that's what I did, and I'm pleased I did do that.
Yeah.
Because, everything's on the table, but some things are further from me than others, So this was quite an interesting thing. So I said, well, I'll just let her get on with it. So she then goes into this trance. And the problem with me is, having been a filmmaker and, you know, done drama and being an actor and all this, you're thinking, give me a bit of drama here then. It's the same thing. There's part of me. Sorry.
Yeah. It's not translating.
You just sort of go, well, this is a bit theatrical, isn't it? So give me a bit of theatre.
Yeah.
So she closed her eyes. And so she had a sort of fairly weak voice anyway to start with. And she was an American. And it's a lot of them. And this, you know, for any Americans who are watching this is not a criticism in any shape or form. But, you know, sorry about the but. But to some British folk, let's say, some American accents can sound quite monotonous. They seem to be a very narrow extent. Some, of course, some of the accents are absolutely amazing because they go up and down. The cadence is so interesting. But and it's the same. I mean, it's the same with British people. Some people are very monotone.
Yeah,
so
well,
it's
I'm from Birmingham, so
yeah, but Birmingham could be quite funny.
Yeah,
it's a humorous accent.
Yeah.
You wouldn't necessarily want a strong Birmingham accent as your prime minister. You wouldn't really.
No, it wouldn't really work with it.
It would, you know, or as authority figures isn't sort of
no
necessarily, but that's just me.
It's the fluoride. We're the first place to be fluoridated. Anyway,
there you go.
Let's get back to this.
So she was of the sort of, hi Richard, I'm now going to go on channel Graham. It's like Graham, the alien, whatever his name was. So, you know, I was kind of expecting a very fantastical name and something. And so she goes, okay, I'm going to put myself in a trance now, Richard. I'm putting myself in a trance. And I'll go quiet for a minute. And the next voice you'll hear will be Graham. And of course, I'm on screen, nodding away as she closes her eyes. And about 30 seconds passes. And there's this quite dramatic pause, and there's a little bit of, and of course I'm expecting, hello, Earthmen, and then the voice goes, voice goes, hello, this is great. In the same accent. And I've tried to keep a straight face. Hello, this is Graham. I'm an Anunnaki from the planet whatever. We really care about you people on Earth. And this goes on, and this went out. So you can check it.
This one's up, is it? Okay.
It is out. Well, there's watering now.
I'll watch your face with it.
There's probably a bit of red pigment gone into my face now from the laughing. So this went out, and of
Did
course,
you manage to keep a straight face?
I did. I don't know how, and I'm nodding as a little nodding dog, you know, going, oh yeah.
I don't think I could, to be honest.
And well, I just let her go through this. And of course, there's part of me that's going, is this real? Is this real?
Yeah, of course.
And the other part is doing, is this a leg pull? Yeah, is this a wind-up?
Yeah.
Am I being had? Am I being set up here?
Yeah.
Because it was a recommendation from somebody else. I didn't source the lady.
Yeah.
And so there is that. Sorry, see what I did there? Slip off.
I didn't source
her. Well, someone said, oh, you've got to toss it sounds. This will be a 6-hour sitting now, I can see that. I should be wetting myself in a minute. So somebody had recommended me to her. This must have been 6 months in to my truth-talking videos.
Okay.
And it's funny, I hadn't had anyone else come forward, and I don't know quite what I would do. I'd seen other
channeling, you mean?
Channeling, yes. I've seen others where they're a lot more dramatic. and at least they put some effort into a bit of voice changing.
So you haven't had any more channelers on?
No. I've had a few spiritual people who say they do that or can connect.
Yeah.
But not actually doing it live. And I just thought,
It's probably a bit of a red flag if they're going to do it live. Maybe. I bet your hardcore channelers would be.
Yeah, if I continue to do that sort of thing, I think they'd all disappear.
Defiance Records, bringing you the best music from the movement. Ramise's Never Give Up and Mad Mix's You're So Right, available now as a double A side on Defiance. And Raw Milk Conspiracy bringing purpose back to music with their latest single, This Is England 2024, and their brilliant debut, Misinformation Whore. All available from Defiance Records, the Freedom label.
It's like I didn't want to do the flat Earth conversation.
You didn't want to do it?
I did do it with one.
With Ian,
Yeah.
Why didn't you want to do it?
Because it's a very emotive, it's a very black and white. People are either one way or t'other. And I thought, and I thought, is it one of those subjects that will upset, knowing how people can be triggered that, oh, Richard, you're doing the flat Earth thing, or thank God you're doing the flat Earth thing. Well done you. You've now joined the ranks of.
You're a true.
Yeah, you're a true truther or whatever. And so I thought, regardless of my curiosity, should I do it? So and because people were going, oh, you've got to do Flat Earth Dave. He's the one. And there is just something comical about the name.
They're all called Dave.
Are they?
They're all called Dave. You've got Flat Earth Dave. You've got Dave Weiss. You've got Dave.
I met Dave Weiss.
South African Dave. Oh, I had a run-in with Dave Weiss. I was not impressed with his conduct at all.
Oh, right. Oh, that's interesting.
I've got it on video as well.
That
was It Sounds Beautiful.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's where I met him.
Well, how do you know the star and the sun are the same size?
No, a sun to our eyes is much bigger in the sky than the
Because it's
star.
bigger.
Yeah, is it bigger, the sun?
Yes.
Right, so why can we not see the sun, but we can see stars on the horizon?
Do you think the stars are farther than the sun?
Look, if you're saying the sun is too far away to see, why can we see stars on the horizon?
Because the stars that you're seeing aren't as far as the sun.
So the stars are closer than the sun.
Yeah.
Have you got that on camera?
So you want to hear the answer? Listen, I'm going to explain exactly what you're doing, and then when you interrupt me, I'm going to walk away, and you can accuse me of rage quitting. It's
You
fine.
can do what you want, Dave, but I know you won't.
We will.
I know, because you don't really want to debate.
Well, no, I'm going to explain it to you, but when you interrupt me, I'm going to be done.
Yeah, he was full of himself. Bless, he may well be watching, so bless you, Dave.
Yeah, I love you, Dave. What was it? Apone. I'm sorry. Forgive me. Thank you. I love you.
There you go. But, I think all these people are incredibly... What's the word I'm eagerly searching for? They're very convicted that they know 100%. And then there's part of me that says, well, how? You can't 100%. You could 99.9% know. And perhaps all the information might lead you to that conclusion. But, and so Ian, who I did do, in the end he broke, he said, oh, when are you going to have me on? I said, all right, fine, let's do it then.
Okay, he kept handing you.
Yeah, and I thought, it's a conversation I've resisted for a long time, and at some point I've got to do it. I just wanted to be at that point myself ready to have the conversation.
Yeah.
And so when we did it, I'd seen a few flat Earth things, and I'm not really bothered one way or another. So I said to him as he came on, I said, right, okay, we're going to do the flat Earth.
I'm not bothered one way or the other.
I said,
rolling.
I said, here we go. Let's start the argument. I said, you're likely to tell me if you stand here and look there, I shouldn't see this. Or if how is it that you can see that when, if you stand in here, or this argument, this triangulation of blah, blah, blah. Yeah. I said, let's just assume you're right. Let's go from the starting point. Okay. It's a flat Earth. Bang. Now what?
Yeah.
And so that was, so I lost him 25 minutes of his material, I think, because half of their stuff is about the proof. And I said, well, let's say it's true. Where do we go from there then?
Good.
I said, what changes?
Yeah.
I said, because I've still got to make a video tomorrow. And he said, well, it's about the lie, isn't it? It's the lie that we've been told. And I thought, well, no more than any of the other bloody lies that we've been told. It's just one more to worry about. But some of the lies, like what's in a so-called vaccine, might be more pertinent to people than something that's really is not going to make much difference.
What they argue is, and because this is a problem for flat earthers, they have to make it important. And the way they do that is by, in a very sort of evangelical way, telling you that you are not saved if you don't. This is what's keeping you from true communion with God, essentially. And you know, we've been lied to because they're trying to keep us from our center of the universe kind of position where we're so important. But for me, that's absurd, because my relationship with the divine, with God or whatever, isn't dependent upon the shape of the planet. But they really hold on to that, and because otherwise it would be pointless kind of exercise, really. In fact, it sounds beautiful. The big sign they had was something along those lines. It was, "This is the lie that's keeping you from God," or something like that.
Right. Yes, and that was what he said to me. He said, well, it brings me closer to God, because if you're on a flat earth and you are effectively the centre of the universe, you're important, whereas you're insignificant if you're a ball in a big universe of balls, of which you're just one of a very obscure one.
That's a very kind of childlike, egotistical way of looking at the nature of reality, I think.
Yes. Well, I did. I mean, I think, I can't remember now my response to all of that. Well, firstly, he sort of described what it was, to as much as he can, with a firmament and all this.
Yeah.
And I said, it sounds what you're describing is one of those paperweights with the snow inside.
Yeah.
I said, that's much more a man-made description of something than a universal source, energy, God, whatever you want to call it, to put in a paperweight.
Yeah.
With a little village, and you shake it up and the snow comes down.
Yeah.
I said that just seems totally and utterly ridiculous to me.
Yeah.
I said that's bizarre. And then what about the argument that so above, so below? If you look above, you see planets and so on. If you look down below, you see atoms and things moving around. It's all balls. Is the whole thing just a series of balls? I said, but also, to me, it divides people. It's this or that. But what if there's something else? What if it's not spherical or not flat? What if it's not even here? I said, the one thing that I can guarantee is I'm here, wherever here is, and I'm here now. And that's about the only thing I can tell you.
Yeah. Because
to me, I'm just conscious.
Yeah.
I am some awareness of something.
Yeah.
And that's it. Everything else could be, it's all at the end of my fingertips or the end of my senses. I can't tell you that anything is real. And so it doesn't really matter if it's on a spherical object or a flat object.
Yeah.
And, all this nonsense about, it's all the Antarctic and you can't go there and there's military this and military that. And I saw a video the other day, actually, of some bloke saying, I've paid for a number of flat earthers.
Oh, it's the ultimate challenge, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Yeah, what do they call it?
The final experiment or something?
Yeah, it sounds a bit Nazi, doesn't it?
It does. It does. And he said, well, I'm going to take them all down to the Antarctic.
Yeah.
And they say the sun cannot be up for 24 hours.
Yeah.
Which will...
Well, they used to say that until now they're actually being asked to go. And now they're all saying, no, it could be.
Yeah, so that's interesting.
Yeah.
So, I'm not following the argument at all, because I think it's a distraction, really, because there's too many other things to get on with. If there was nothing else, I think, yes, then fair game.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Golly, if we've got people impregnated with poisons, we're breathing poisons from what they're spraying in the sky, we're drinking all sorts of stuff they're shoving in water, we've got EMFs to deal with, we've got a government who hates us, we've got globalists trying to sort of depopulate the planet. I think there's enough things to get on with than worrying if actually what you can see is flat. It has a slight curve to it.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, I got interested in it for a little while, and I was kind of agnostic, and then I started looking into it. So I thought, if I'm ever going to talk about this, I need to really know what I'm talking about. And I started looking into it, and then quite quickly decided, or came to the conclusion that it was basically every anomaly that they sort of cite can be pretty much explained. And that incredulity isn't the same as actual logical reasoning. You know, life is incredibly bizarre, isn't it? You know, the fact that we exist at all is incomprehensible. How does that happen? So, you know, just because something is you know, incredible, it doesn't mean it's not true.
Absolutely.
So I started looking into it, and then I just got a little bit obsessed with kind of, because I started to feel, well, maybe I was using it as an excuse, you know, I don't know, an intellectual exercise or whatever. But I started feeling like this is doing the movement no good whatsoever. You know, you've got people who might be genuinely interested in looking at, say, CBDCs or vaccines or whatever, and they're clicking on stuff and they're seeing a bunch of flat earthers, and they're thinking, I don't want anything to do with these nutters.
It is too extreme.
Now, having said that, if there was anything to it, I would say, yeah, whatever, you know.
Yeah, I mean, if they were able to say, actually, beyond the ice wall, there's this, and we've got photographs, and all the elite live there, and we live in this part, and you go, well, actually, it used to be quite nice till the elites allowed corporations to industrialise it. So, isn't that?
Yeah.
But yeah, so if there was something more to it being, well, there could be, and all of this.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's all just lots of could be's
and I like Alan Watts's take in his. He says it's not flat, it's undulated.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's like, oh yes, that's true. Yeah. You know, it's wavy.
Yeah.
Because it's got mountains and hills.
Exactly. Yeah. Is that Alan Watts or Alan Watt? The miserable Scottish.
Oh no, Alan Watts, the philosopher from the 60s and 70s or whatever it was.
Okay. There's a miserable Scottish conspiracy theorist called Alan Watt.
Oh right.
Who's very black-pilled. I say miserable. He's just quite morose Scottish.
Oh right. Yeah. No.
He used to follow back in the day.
I didn't know about him, so I have to make sure.
Avoid him.
Yes. Well, just make sure that people know which one I'm talking about.
Yeah. Well, so just quickly go
pipe smoking Alan Watts.
That's the one. Yeah, with cravat wearing Alan Watts.
Does he wear a cravat?
I'm sure he did before he went full on hippie.
Yeah.
Yeah, but just quickly before we finish with the flat Earth thing, because there was a really lovely story actually. It sounds beautiful. I'd been sort of wearing a T-shirt going around the Earth isn't flat. And I'd wound up a few of the flat earthers. Not because I wanted any aggro or anything, but my son had sort of, he'll curse me if I put this on them, but he'd sort of taken on board a bit of my frustration and got it into his head that he'd cause a bit of fuss. Now, I've always said to him act honourably, so I don't know where he got it from. I was quite surprised. But he did throw an empty coffee cup at the flat earth tent.
Oh, did he?
It was empty, so it was a problem.
All right.
So
I gave him the same, is it?
I gave him a telling. No, I gave him a telling off, and I said, "Look, you've got to go and apologise because that's not good. You know, we need."
How old is he?
He was 11.
Right.
He was 18.
Empty teacup. Polystyrene cup.
Yeah.
There you are. Take that.
Yeah, take that, mate. And anyway, he went and apologised in the end. And I was telling my wife what had happened, and then we saw Ian and my son walking up the hill towards us. You know, the tent where they had the talks.
Oh yes.
And I didn't know what was going to be said or anything. Anyway, Ian and I before that, so Ian had told me, Ian had come up to me and said, you better sort your son out. You better blah, blah, blah. And he got really like arsey, you know. And we almost came to blows over it because I said, you don't tell a parent how to parent their kids like that. If you've got a problem with a child, then you do it sensibly and you say, look, your son's doing this. And, you know, we're the adults.
Yes.
You don't start being aggro with me just because you... Anyway, so we almost came to blows and he was like, all this, doing all
Oh,
this.
really?
Yeah.
My goodness.
And I said, beep, off, you know. Anyway, went off. Told my son to go and apologise. Despite that, I did say, you must apologise because that's out of order. Anyway, so half an hour later, we came up the hill with my son and we sort of walked towards each other and I had no idea what was going to happen. We walked towards each other and we just both went like that and we just hugged and I was crying and he said, your son has taught me a lesson, you know,
Wow.
blah, blah. And it was really lovely. So we're on good terms, you know, Ian. I remember when I saw him on your programme, I thought, he seems like a really nice guy and we'd probably have a lot in common, but this flat earth stuff is doing my nut in.
Yeah. I was very light-hearted with him. So
You were?
Yeah. I mean, I said, all right, we are going to do this conversation. And I did approach it in a way that I think the viewer would see that I was a little sceptical.
Yeah.
And not going, oh, yeah, this is, you know, the real business now.
Yeah.
But Ian is interesting because, and, you know, if he watches this, he'll hopefully know this is of no malice. But he does seem to, in conversation, cannot have a conversation without just a little bit of flat earth popping into it.
It's very evangelical. They genuinely do think it's so important that somehow it's the key.
Right.
And
I guess I understand that because you get people who read the Bible and they're very much, you know, the Revelations is the key and this is what it's all been written before.
It's very similar. It's very similar. I find it. And I think quite often they struggle to have a rational conversation about it. You know, I find Dave the same, you know, the way he conducts himself. You know, I know you've got a relationship with him, but
that's the one time I saw him was at that Dave.
Right.
Just going to
that's all right.
myself a little
bit.
So I don't, you know.
No,
but I try to just get on with everybody because
I think that's the way.
you know, I'm not trying to upset anybody, but you know, Americans in general are a lot more confident about their convictions, shall we say, than us Brits because we have this sort of underplaying our skills and talents and all of that, and I just you know, so I think sometimes
we don't get it. Do we?
We don't get that sort of self-confident, brash approach.
No,
because that's not our style.
Yeah.
And sometimes I wish I was a bit more confident and brash, although I wouldn't really want that to come over in the videos.
No,
you know, there's some
another thing we can
the
learn.
unassuming. I think is a lovely touch.
Yeah.
And I mean, my background is in entertainment, so I would have an agent who would say things like, "Oh yeah, you've got to book Richard Vobes. He's great, a great juggler, unicyclist. He does this and does that." Whereas if I had to talk to a client myself, it would just feel, yeah, I'm great at this, and this.
Yeah.
It's just not the same.
Yeah. Yeah. And we're sort of encouraged nowadays, aren't we, to embrace that.
To big ourselves up.
Yeah.
And it's, I just, you know, I think it's more authentic coming from somebody else, even though they can lie and say, yeah, he's great at that. And say, that juggler, he was, he kept dropping his balls. Oh,
kept cupping his balls.
Yeah. He's cupping his balls. Got to keep them warm. They might hatch.
You're not cold, are you?
No. I'm actually, it's a lovely day. It's a good day.
I think I've actually got the heating on because I wanted to be comfortable. But if it's too warm.
Well, I wasn't sure what to wear because you think, oh, if we're going to be in a cold studio, what would that would be like? Should I just come with a duffel coat?
Yeah.
You know, put a hoodie on.
Yeah.
And go, that really sums up what we see on the YouTube channel. The real Richard Vobes in a hoodie.
Richard Vobes exposed.
Yeah, no glasses. Moustache.
Pipe.
Big beard. Well, a pipe's me.
Yeah.
It's becoming me now.
It would be new to the audience.
Yeah, I do try and feed it in.
Okay.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that many of your recent shows.
No, well, they're all the same, aren't they?
I did meet Althea.
Oh yeah,
Althea,
Althea,
isn't
yeah,
it? Yeah,
that's
she was
right.
lovely.
yeah.
She's quite good friends with Jackie Devoy, who I painted.
Oh right.
She was talking about her, and I went, "Oh, is she on Richard Vobes' show?" And then I met her at the Uprise and Shine that you didn't come to.
Uprising. Oh yes, I couldn't make that one.
No.
Was that the recent one?
Yeah,
Yeah, we were going up to Scotland.
that's right. No, I heard.
And yeah, Karen said that she didn't think she'd sold very many tickets. And I said, look, I don't like letting people down because in the past, if someone's booked you for a day, you honour it, whatever.
Yeah.
But we were going up to Scotland, and I'm somebody, again, when you work for yourself, you often just say yes to whatever comes in because you need the money. And in the past, it was always, say yes.
You know, there's no payment for this.
No, I appreciate that. And so you just say yes. And so when you're in this movement, it's that same sort of thing. But I tend to overbook myself. I don't double book myself, but you'll be in one place and you think, Christ, tomorrow we've got to be in so-and-so. Where are we going to sleep?
Yeah.
And Julia will say, how's this working? We've got to be here. And then the next day we're going there.
Yeah.
And I said, oh, yeah, but they'd like me to do a talk, so I didn't want to let them down.
Yeah.
And so she's a bit more practical on that.
Yeah.
Although we always say, well, we'll just sleep in the van,
Right.
which is we do a lot of.
You do.
It saves money, but and because the van is unmarked and it's not a camper van, it's just a transit, we'll just park up in a lay-by and it just looks like it's a builder's van or it's very, ideal.
That's quite good, isn't it?
And we both enjoy that too, even on a cold day, because we'll go to a farm shop or somewhere and buy something and then cook something up.
Yeah.
So it works out quite well.
It's a standard question.
Is it?
But how did you start seeing things the way that you see things?
You've got a parcel.
Oh, it's more paints in case I run out.
Oh, there we go.
Cheers. Hello. That's very kind. Can you just stick it down here? Yeah. That's lovely. Thank you very much. Cheers, Andrew.
They must see all sorts of things delivering their parcels, mustn't they?
Yeah, they do. Actually, the other guy who delivers, he's wide awake. We got chat. He saw me painting, and then we started talking about hope, and he said, "Oh, I know hope." So your, what was your sort of process for? When did you start questioning the sort of given narrative?
I suppose. This is again. It's one of those. It started with Brexit, I think, for me.
Okay.
When Brexit happened, I was like, I hadn't really been interested in politics because it had nothing it did inspired me.
Right.
Again, I just had the attitude that they're in it for themselves, but they didn't really interfere with my life.
Yeah.
I was at the time. I was running my. Was I running my? When was that? Brexit was some years ago now, wasn't it? Yes, I was running my YouTube channel, going around exploring landscape, heritage, and nature.
Yeah.
I was also doing some corporate video stuff, and I was trying desperately to get out of that horrible profession that I didn't enjoy.
You didn't enjoy it.
And moving into somehow making YouTube financially viable.
Yeah.
But at the time, I still had a mortgage to pay, but I managed to finish off paying the mortgage, which meant I could then concentrate on YouTube because I didn't have the huge monthly bill.
That's great. Well done.
And so during Brexit, there was this English civil war between which side you were on. And it became very clear if you were a Brexiteer, as I was, because I'm still only just old enough really to remember going into the common market and thinking then, but why are we going into something when we can, we're British, we're able to, we had the empire when one thought the empire was a thing to have.
Yeah.
But more than that we could stand on our own feet, that we were innovative, that we were a clever bunch of chaps. We'd won the Second World War, and I just didn't understand why people during the Brexit were thinking, oh, we need to be in with Europe and we just need to be a small cog in somebody else's wheel, where we could be our own cog and stand up again for certain things. But I noticed, and I used to listen to the BBC Radio 4 all the time. It was the sort of go-to thing. And I realised just how biased it had become. And I'd listen to Any Questions and Question Time on the telly, and I'd think, this is really weird. They're really not putting the Brexit side. They're giving all the reasons to stay in. And I thought, there's an agenda here, and the BBC are part of it, which was quite a surprise. But I was still going, oh, well, I'll just vote the way I want to vote. And didn't really overly think much more of it at that stage. But I had then started to become aware that I could not have a conversation about being wanting to be a Brexiteer.
And were you losing friends?
And and then people were calling you names. Well, you're an idiot. I said, well, it's just a difference of opinion, isn't it? And they said, no, you're obviously thick to understand. And also, when the vote came in, we were all told that we'd voted wrongly because we didn't understand what it was about. And you're going, well, I think I knew what it was about. Thanks very much. I think I know my own mind, certainly more than you, somebody on Facebook that I've never really met. I think I am a bit more familiar. If you were a doctor or a psychotherapist, you might have reasons to all of that. So that was the beginning of it, and I started to not listen to I couldn't listen to. I used to listen to the Archers.
Oh God, it's in everything, isn't it?
But and I started to realise it's in plays, it was in comedies, and it was just everywhere. And I realised, God, that is really awful. And of course, then we go to the lockdown business, and I was running. How
did it make you feel being suddenly sort of slightly ostracised, or that sense of, oh, I'm not?
It didn't actually. I didn't overly mind because I just knew I was right. I just thought, we are a country. For 2,000 years we've managed on our own. Okay, we've had invaders, Normans and Saxons and this, that and the other. But ultimately, we've created something really good. I thought, as an Englishman, I was proud of our traditions and customs, and little did I know how much of
right wing, Richard.
I know, it's absolutely outrageous. But I thought May Day was great with the kids running around the maypole. I thought Christmas was fun. I used to think that all the farming, rural stuff was great. The Maundy Mondays and the Shrove Tuesdays and the bits where people come out from the woods with green boughs and they decorate the houses, and the various games people used to play, and the church ales that people had. And I was reading up on all these sort of things and thought, this is our culture. And it's great to see other people's culture, which is what made going around the world interesting, or travelling around the regions interesting. So you go and have a genuine Cornish pasty, or a Devonshire cream tea, or a Milton Mowbray Mulberry pie, whatever it is. I'm losing it now. And all these different foodstuffs from different places, they all had their own take on the world. And you could move around the country and you're going to go 20 miles and the regional accent's different. And that's what made it interesting. And the architecture, of course, was different because the geology in this country is so fascinating. And you can go from a shingle seaside beach through the downs here, chalk and flint, and see some timber-framed houses, chalk and flint housing. And then before you know it, you're into... if you go down towards the Cotswolds, you've got the elliptic limestone, and stone houses, and then you go through different strata, and the countryside and the architecture is reflected in the building material. And so I thought, this is why this country is so great. We've got people from all over the world with all walks of life. We've got the whole history of the canals and industry, and some of it's not great with the mills and the mill workers, the satanic mills and blah blah blah.
And the what mills?
The satanic mills, as they used to call them,
because
the kids,
never heard of it.
The kids used to work in the mills, long 12-hour shifts and things,
Right.
and going down the
call
mines.
them, really?
The old satanic mill. I think that's a quote from Jerusalem.
William Blake.
Yeah, William Blake, the satanic mills, because they were dark and the kids,
Sure.
people weren't looked after. But anyway, all of that history, along with the good and the bad, generally it seemed to me the good outweighed the bad. And yes, we had empire, and yes, we brought what I thought at the time was a great law system, which in theory, of course,
in theory
it ought to be.
According to, who's that great guy that you had on? Or was it Neil Oliver had him on? Keats?
William Keats. Yeah, Constitution and all of this stuff. So I thought, I didn't feel ostracized. I just felt, well, I'm right.
Right, good.
I don't,
Have you always had that in your, all through life, like different situations?
The things that I know that I'm right,
yes.
if I know something's right, I know it's right.
Yeah.
Other areas, if I don't know anything about it, I'm more than happy to say, look, it's not my thing, I don't know.
Yeah.
But those, certainly when it came to theatrical stuff, drama and film and television and things, I would, I would look at things and I would think, that's not working because of this, and this. And there's just something inside me said, you're right about this, it should have been this, that and the other. Now the people don't necessarily see my point of view, and I have no problem with that. It's just, I would say, well, if I was doing it, I would have done it like this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I would have the conviction there, but in, when it comes to what you should do with a motor car and mechanics and things like that, I haven't a bloody clue.
Sure.
And so that's where I'd rely on the garage to make sure it's right.
Yeah.
But so going forward then, up comes the COVID thing. And right away, well, let's go back a little bit. Global warming reared its ugly head.
Yeah.
And I was doing a podcast. Well, that's it. And I remember running this podcast, which was called The Vobes Show, which was an audio podcast.
Right.
I make this claim, but no one's unclaimed it, or rather pushed it off the shelf.
Mm-hmm.
I was the fourth UK podcaster in this country, in England, or in Great Britain.
Fourth.
I think. The fourth one.
Just missed that in the bronze.
Yeah. I was interested in audio, as I said at the beginning. I really like audio.
Yeah.
And it struck me in 2004, in December 2004, when I was thinking, how can I make some money out of the things I love? Because I never wanted to work in other people's jobs. And I thought, wouldn't it be great if you could have a radio show that you download as an MP3, because there were these things called iPods and MP3 players. Mm-hmm. And I thought it would be a great idea, because if you're a commuter and you're going on the underground, you can't get a radio signal.
Right.
You could put your headphones in, and these newfangled things, there'd be a radio. And if you downloaded a 30-minute show every day, that might help you get through your commute.
Mm-hmm. So you invented podcasts, but someone had already done it.
Yeah, and then I discovered there was this thing called podcasting in America.
Right.
And I thought, oh, bugger, someone's already done it. That's that idea. Yeah. But then I kept seeing them pop up on the internet. And I thought, well, oh, I see. It's not that you just to have one podcast and that's the thing. Of course, anybody can create a radio show. It's a thing. Or an audio file. Oh, okay, so I could still do it. By this time, it was about January the 4th. And I looked to see who was in the UK. and there were only 3 that I could find. So I set up my own, which started out as the Richard Vobes radio show, which was a very tame, almost like your local BBC channel.
Yeah.
You know, very, hello and welcome to the Richard Vobes radio show. We're going to do this and we're going to do that and report on. Well, it went like that for about 3 months, but I started to do it every day because I am somebody who's a bit black and white like that. I either give my all or I don't. And so other podcasters were saying, and it was at the time, only podcasters were listening to podcasts.
Okay.
And the geeks who set them up because nobody else knew about them, you see. So I was doing this and people were saying, oh, Richard, you're doing too many. And I said, well, what do you mean too many? I said, well, we can't keep up. You keep doing them. And I said, but you don't have to listen to each one. I said, it's like, think of it as freshly baked bread. At the end of the day, the bread's stale. So don't bother to listen to it. Because mine was all based really on things that were in the news and what was going on. And I said, but there'll be another one tomorrow.
Right.
And they said, yeah, but we want to listen to them all. I said, but you don't have to. Mostly we're American, you see.
Yeah.
And one of the things that they were saying is, we like your British voice because they love the English accent. And it wasn't, only a certain amount of television was getting through to America. So this was an authentic British voice.
Okay.
So I didn't take any notice of that because I just liked doing the show. And in the end, not in the end, very soon, it changed from this very, hello and welcome to the Richard Vobes radio show, with my daughter, who was 11, who was doing it with me.
Sweet.
It became this, hello and welcome to, and it was much more in your face, punchy, comic, silly.
Okay.
And it was a mixture between Kenny Everett and who's the one that's just died recently from BBC Two?
Oh, I don't know.
Steve Wright in the afternoon.
Oh, yeah.
So it was a sort of a mixture between that of puzzles and fun, silly voices, comedy sketches, news articles, and some out and about roving reporting. And so around about the middle of 2005, when I got into my sort of stride, there was this news article saying global warming was affecting the world. And I remember vividly now saying, global warming, there's no such thing. And that was my episode. It was all about this rubbish that, as if. And it struck me that this was the most preposterous idea. And then I was doing impressions of David Bellamy because I'd seen that David Bellamy was saying this was a load of rubbish because we needed CO2.
Yeah, and that was we heard of David Bellamy.
And then, he was pushed off this shelf. Going through the undergrowth, which needs CO2. It was all this. So, I was doing this and, oh my goodness, there were lots of pushback against that from the audience.
Oh, okay.
I thought, this is really weird. This is just an irreverent show, taking the piss out of news articles. Yeah. And they were going, no, it's actually very real, Richard, global warming. There's all these scientific things. And I was going, I don't believe you. And it's in my gut. I just didn't believe them.
Yeah.
And I didn't necessarily need to read all this stuff that proved what they said. I just thought, I just cannot get over that this is a thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, roll forward now to COVID. So we then go through Brexit, don't we? And then COVID. And as COVID was approaching in November, when was it? November 18.
No, 19.
Hang on, when? Yes, 19. That's right. Beg your pardon. So easy to forget all this.
Oh, God, yeah.
There were all these videos of these Chinese people dropping down dead all of a sudden. And they were saying, oh, there's this terrible virus that's airborne and dropping them dead. And it's funny now, thinking back to those videos, because they're the sort of videos we see that people who've taken a certain medical intervention to prevent you from getting that virus.
Yeah.
But having been in the game of filming all my life, I thought there's something very wrong about these. They don't look genuine. That's all made up. Mm-hmm. And I could see, again, it was, power of the conviction. I just, that ain't true. Those people, people don't just drop dead like that. And the filming, it's very happenstance that someone happened to be filming somebody.
Yeah.
And I just thought, this is from that. And then it sort of, people weren't overly worried about it because it was all in China, but then we were getting this, well, they haven't stopped the flights, have they? And then we started to see various countries, including Italy, going a bit bonkers with it.
Italy was the first, wasn't it?
Yeah, and people were getting worried. And I thought, why are we all getting worried with this? Doesn't seem right.
Mm-hmm.
And then eventually we get Whitty standing there in his ill-fitting suit saying, yes, this virus is coming, but don't worry, it only affects the over 80s. And I thought, oh, well, there you go then. Even if it's a thing, it's nothing to worry about, is it? And then the next day, it was as if somebody had given him the different script. And he said, oh no, actually, while it does affect, it's actually worrying if you're in your 60s or your 50s and all of this. Young people should be okay, and the message kept going down in age. Everybody, and we're going to kill Granny and all this. And of course, then we went into the lockdown. And at the time, I had resurrected this Vobes show podcast, but it was on YouTube now. And it was a live streaming show. We'd been doing it for a couple of years. So it had gravitated as being a download on an MP3. And now was just this fun show that I was doing, as well as my walking channel, which was just a walking channel, walking and showing landscape heritage and nature. Two separate things. But the Vobes show one, whereas I could talk about stuff in the news, I started talking about this stuff, and the audience were going, Richard, don't talk about this. This is very serious. You mustn't take the piss and all of this. And I was saying, but don't you think it's a bit odd? Don't you? And they were going, no. And people weren't watching. And I thought, crikey, that's very strange.
Uh-huh.
They're all really affected by this. They're really scared. And I couldn't understand it. And Julia was also quite worried about me talking about it. She was a bit, she said, you're going to lose the audience. And I said, well, what do you think? Do you think it's real? She said, well, I don't know. I said, it's rubbish. It's absolute rubbish. I couldn't understand how people could swallow this. It just, again, it was the same with the global warming thing. This is nonsense. I don't get it. And then we go into lockdown. And so we were doing this Vobes show thing once a week. In lockdown, we did it every day because I just said, well, we've got to give people entertainment. And what else am I going to do? I'm going to carry on doing what I do. We'll do it every day. So it was on in the evenings. But in the daytime, I was doing my walks. So I still went out on my walks. And they said, oh, you've only got an hour to go. And he said, well, we're allowed to walk, aren't we? So I'm going to go and do my walks. And I was walking over the downs. But I did sort of restrict myself because I didn't want the police, coming in on me and doing this. Because you'd heard about these poor people who'd gone to the Peak District and the drones were flying. And of course, I was talking about that in the show. And people were saying, don't talk about it, Richard. You're taking the mickey. It's not right. But I was doing my walks, and then there was a crossover of the audience who liked the walks and some who did like the Vobes show and some didn't and whatever. And I was out doing my walks and they were saying, Richard, you shouldn't go out on a walk. You shouldn't be in the town or on the downs. You're spreading the virus. You'll be killing people. You're spreading it. Richard, you mustn't. I'm going to report you to the police, all this. Mm-hmm. And I said, but there's nobody here. I'm the only one out. There's nobody out there. You're all fermenting behind glass windows, peering out. I said, I'm bringing you the outside to you. And some people were very grateful. They said, thank you, Richard, for braving it, because I'm not brave enough to go out, but you're bringing us some of the outdoor. Mm. I'm happy to sit in the garden and listen to the birds and the insects for the first time in years. Yeah. But I'd love to have gone up on the downs, or I'd love to have done this, that, and the other. And you're doing it. So that was, I felt I was doing a service to some people, but at the same time, I was pushing back by saying, no, look, I'm out and I haven't died. And actually, I've not killed anyone because there's nobody here to kill. Mm. But people, and that's when I started losing friends. Right. I lost the audiences and they said, Richard, you just, you've lost it. You're taking the mickey now. And then, of course, there was the speed of science. We get the vaccine.
The speed of science, yeah.
The speed of science.
Yeah.
And now, the curious thing was, and I did, but before the vaccine, during the lockdown, and afterwards, my son, who was living at home at the time, my youngest son Billy, was working at the hospital for the NHS at A&E, and so I said to him, "Are there people in the hospital?" And he was going, Yeah, there's still people in the hospital. People come in, they break their legs, or they've fallen down the stairs, or they've done this.
Yeah.
And I said, "That's not what I mean." I said, "Are there people? Is there not the wards stuffed to the gills with people with breathing difficulties?" And he said, "Well, I don't really go into that area."
Right.
And I said, "But you must see if people are coming in and moving from." He said, "Well, anybody who comes in with any sort of respiratory problem, they're not allowed in the hospital." I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Well, if they come in and they got a broken leg or whatever, they go through in the normal way and they're triaged and sorted. But if somebody comes in with sniffles, sore throat, all the symptoms, or they say, I think I've got COVID," he said, "we've been told to immediately escort them into the car park at a distance, give them a mask to wear, take their details, and then send them home."
Okay.
And I said, "It's a bit odd, isn't it?" I said, "I thought a hospital was there to help people." And he said, "Well, they're only allowed to come in if they have severe breathing difficulties." And I thought, right, okay. So once he told me that evening, I'm on my show saying things like, "I've just been told that, if you go to there, you're frog marched into the car park, and you're basically sent home. And unless you're actually blue in the face and you can't breathe, can you come in?" And I said, "Isn't that strange? Does that not strike you as weird? Because in the past, if you had a lump, you're in the shower and you feel around and you go, 'Oh, that wasn't there before.' You'd go to the GP and the GP would have a look at it, and the GP would go, 'Oh, that, I can't. We better get early intervention.
Yeah.
Go and have a scan.' You go and get a scan, and then if it's a problem, you're on some sort of medical treatment."
Yeah.
I said, "Isn't that strange? Here we have this global virus that's supposedly knocking people down, and yet if you've got it or you think you've got it, you're just told to go home." I said, "Doesn't that strike you as being a bit odd?" And the audience were going, No, it doesn't strike us as being odd." And I was just thinking, is it me? Is it what's going on? Surely you must see the nonsense in this.
Yeah.
And it was exasperating that people were going, no, that, because they're spreading it. That's the problem. It is the Black Death. And I go, what are we going to do? Paint big red crosses on people's doors and shout, "Bring out your dead." And then I started to do the old, "Bring out your dead," all this. And of course, viewers were just, I could see on the live how many people were watching. They were just going, ding, 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 ding. I thought, you can't talk about this. This is censorship by the back door, isn't it?
Yeah.
So then I did stop talking about it, even though I knew it was preposterous until until 2021. But by which point we got the vaccine and people were lining up. And I did walk out. I was still doing the walks. And I remember that I've got one video that had huge numbers. And I walked around Worthing, where I live. And this was after the lockdown. And people are lined up at the 6 foot, the 2 meter distance. And it was Zombie Town. I was just filming them and people would look, I was going around and there were all these people waiting to go into shops and banks with masks on at a distance in this weird sort of circular shape as they spiraled round the corner or whatever. And I'm filming and it made a great video because it was just on my GoPro and I was just like wandering around going,
All right.
And I was deliberately vocal so they could hear me. And I say, "Isn't this surreal? People are at such a distance from each other. It's Zombie Town, isn't it?" And people were just looking at me as if I was a scumbag.
Yeah.
And anyway, there's only so much of that you want to poke. So I just kept to sort of very safe things. But then eventually it just got to the point where I did start speaking. I'm happy to have anybody on the show, but he's just gone and made a public video saying I'm a shill without even asking me my views on anything. The fraud is going to be called out more and more and more. And I think they know they're on a losing wicket. And they said, well, no, that's it. You're getting something from the source or from God, or someone's telling you what to talk about.
If you'd like to buy signed prints of any of the paintings from the series, you can go to jakefern.com or go to jakefern.co.uk to see my personal work. You can message me about the possibility of commissioning a portrait for yourself or a loved one. We also have Righteous Brothers work available in unlimited and limited edition prints. Perfect for anyone who wants the world to know what they think about what's going on.